Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary if you're new here, and today is going to be my June wrap-up. In June, I read a total of 12 books. I did complete my TBR. I did DNF one book, but only one, so cheers to me. I read a wide variety of books. I read some young adult queer romance. I read some fantasy romance. I read a memoir. I read a mystery, 3 mysteries. But yeah, without further ado, I'm just going to jump into the review of the books. I am doing this in worst to best, I guess. So I'm starting with a book that I DNF'd, and it was Animales Fantásticos y Donde Encontrarlos. This is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I didn't realize that this is the screenplay for that, even though it says very clearly. This was a birthday gift from my brother for my 22nd birthday, so almost 3 years ago now. And it's very pretty on the inside. A large part of the reason I DNF'd this is because I don't enjoy reading screenplays. I just don't like the way it's configured. Another reason is I watched the movie, so I feel like it's the same. That's what this is, just the movie written down, which I didn't love. Also, I'm just sort of not in the mood to read Harry Potter or J.K. Rowling at the moment. I'm sure at some point I will be able to look past it and go back because that series and that universe is so nostalgic for me and it reminds me so much of my childhood, but for now it's a no. But yeah, I did DNF this. I didn't rate it because I didn't feel like it would be fair for me to give it 1 star because I didn't finish it and I'm annoyed with life at the moment. So that was the first no for me. Oh, I had a 2-star read. Oh, I think this is the next lowest because I don't think I disliked anything more than I disliked that. Okay, so I gave it 2 stars because I didn't DNF it. Sometimes I'll give a book 1 star if I hate it so much that I don't finish it. But for me, I have to like really hate a book. And this one I just thought wasn't good. So I did give it 2 stars. I should tell you what it is. It's Once and Future by Rose something. I don't have the name written down here. I think it's 2 authors that joint write it. And this is like a young adult sci-fi retelling of King Arthur in the future, where Arthur is a female character. And I read this, I should tell you, if you saw my June TBR, this was not on my June TBR. Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World was on my June TBR. For Detectathon, Detectathon got postponed until July. I postponed reading Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World until this month. So I'm going to be reading that for Detectathon this month, not last month. So I picked another queer book because I used Sorry to pick my TBR, and the prompt that I used to make Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World fit in was to read a queer book. So I picked Once and Future because it's very queer. It's the whole universe. It wouldn't exist without being queer. Just queerness is so regular and so accepting. And so you have an ace character. You have they, them, non-binary characters. I don't know that you have anybody who's actually trans, like F to M, M to F. That's not mentioned. But you do have like lesbian relationships, gay relationships, just all kinds of representation, which was really great. The reason I didn't like this is because how do I say this? There were so many relationships, like romantic relationships within these characters, and I didn't believe any of them. Also, the characters, I guess, were supposed to be adults, but I read them like they were supposed to be children. And so there's a sex scene, and I was very confused and uncomfortable and concerned, and then the characters get married. It's set in the future in space, and there's this capitalist basically like monopoly on everything called Mercer. It's the Mercer Corporation. And so they're the bad guys. I'm totally down with capitalism being the bad guys. I'm totally down with space knights taking down capitalism, I thought. But really, the atmosphere didn't make any sense. Because I thought it was going to be more like space opera-y. And it was set on a planet that was like medieval themed. Also, I think the weirdest part for me is that everybody knows that it's a King Arthur retelling. Like, King Arthur was a story that happened. Merlin is living through these cycles of Arthurs. So he gets a new Arthur and has a new quest and basically like does the cycle all over again. But all the characters are aware that my name is Val, but I'm Percival? Is that his name? And then like Gwen is Guinevere. And like Ari is Arthur. Like, they all know who they are. Kay is Kay. Kay is also the best character. Kay's the best character, and Merlin and Val are the only like fleshed out romantic relationship. I think that was my other big problem with it, is you are sort of supposed to be rooting for Ari and Gwen, but it just doesn't make sense to. They don't have any chemistry. Mostly I think I just didn't like the fact that they used all of time and space and then they set it on a planet that is like King Arthur themed. It was just kind of dumb. 2 stars. Okay, moving on. I think that was my lowest by like a long shot. I used Cawpile to rate my books and that got like a 3 out of 10 on Cawpile. And I think the next lowest were 6s out of 10. So the next book that I liked more than that, but less than all the others, is a book that I read on audiobook. It was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. And the narrator's voice really got on my nerves, which is kind of weird to say, but she did character voices and I hated them a lot. Also, there's like a romantic interest. I should explain the plot. I'm really bad at this. Then She Was Gone is a mystery book about a woman whose 15-year-old daughter goes missing. And then that was 10 years ago, and it's 10 years in the future, and it's kind of like a family drama where she's been divorced since then, and she has her children, she has 2 adult children now who were the siblings of her other child who went missing, but she's like sort of estranged from her children because she never was able to get over her younger daughter going missing, I guess. And it's like her trying to rebuild her life with them. But then it also focuses, she meets this man named Floyd, and they like have a romance kind of. And then Floyd has a young daughter who I think is 8 or 9, and her name's Poppy. And Poppy like looks a lot like this woman's missing daughter, Ellie. I can't remember the woman's name, which sucks, but Floyd's daughter looks a lot like Ellie, so this woman takes a really strong liking to her. And Ellie is supposed to be like the best character in this book. I think she's supposed to be flawed, but it's like this woman loves her so much and she was her favorite daughter. And I kind of hated Ellie in the scenes because they do like flashbacks where you're with Ellie and she has this tutor and all this stuff is happening. So you're introduced to all the characters. So my first gripe is that I don't like any of the characters, which never a good sign. Always a bad sign, I would argue. Poppy is a 9-year-old girl who is being homeschooled by her father. Her mother's no longer in her life. Her mother is now missing, which is just another one of the weird coincidences in this book. And Poppy is like very mature for her age is how she's described, but she sort of just comes off as like odd. And it's supposed to be kind of jarring how mature she is, but she doesn't seem like a real person. Floyd also is not a charismatic person. I don't understand our protagonist's interest in him. It just doesn't really, like, their relationship doesn't make any sense. They don't have any chemistry. I'm not rooting for them. I don't like him the whole time. And like, I think part of it is that the author wanted you to feel uneasy about what's happening because it's all very weird and convoluted, but I just didn't like it, I guess. I don't know that I would say it's bad. I just didn't enjoy it. But to be fair, I thought it was going to get a lot more twisted than it actually did. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the ending, it's kind of a twist ending, but also you kind of know what's happening the whole time. The only twist is that it's not as twisty as you think it is. I did give this 3 stars. I didn't like it, but I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was like a bad book. That being said, moving on. Oh, Vacation by Deb Olin Unferth. The longer I spend away from this, the more I think maybe I did actually kind of like it. I gave this the same score that I gave Then She Was Gone, but I think what's interesting is I'd heard negative things about this, and I liked it more than I thought I would. And I don't think I'd heard negative things about Then She Was Gone. I don't know if I'd heard anything really about it. But I like got it in my head that it was going to be good, and then I didn't like it. But this, to me, is just kind of, there is a plot. It's just odd. I don't know. It's like a bunch of just like quirky, funny characters doing like quirky things. It reminds me a lot of like a Wes Anderson movie. Like I feel like if Wes Anderson were to adapt this into a film, it would be a really good movie. Like I think I would really, really like it. As a book, I feel very meh. But it's like a man follows his wife follows a stranger, and then a man follows a stranger to get revenge. Is essentially the like plot of this. And it's this guy, whose name I can't remember now, but this guy follows his wife around New York City where they live, and he thinks she's having an affair at first, and then he realizes that she's just following someone else around the city, and it turns out he knows this other guy from college. It was very interesting. I will give it that. And it was interesting the way the characters all sort of come together. Also, it's written in a very pretty way. It was like an interesting concept, but I just feel like I didn't love. It's not the type of book that I like to read, I guess. Oh, the last book I read this month was The Martian. I finished it literally last night. I'm filming this July 1st. The Martian by Andy Weir. This I was also kind of disappointed in, but I think the reason I was disappointed is because I thought So here's what I thought happened in The Martian. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know what happens in the movie. I've only read this book. I thought what happened in The Martian was a man gets abandoned on Mars, can't contact anybody back home to let them know that he's still alive. Nobody knows that he's still alive. And he's somehow able to cultivate a garden and feed himself and sustain himself for a certain amount of time. I didn't know how it ended. I didn't know if they came back in the next mission 4 years later or whatever it was supposed to be and found him, but that's what I thought happened. No. It's about figuring out that this man was left on Mars and trying to figure out how to go back and get him, which was interesting, but I feel like I cared more about the part where he was growing potatoes. And I will say, like, I think I was just burnt out. This was the third hard sci-fi that I read in the month of June, and I just, like, was kind of over it by that point, I think. I'd read 2 really, really good ones that I loved that I'll get to in a minute, and then this one was sort of like, eh. It's very funny. A lot of it is written as, like, an astronaut's log of, like, this is what I did today, and, like, documenting experiments and stuff. But obviously it's the main character, Mark Watney, is, like, trapped on Mars. So he's like, I don't know if anyone will read this. So I think it starts with, like, I'm fucked, is, like, the first line. So as much as I thought it was, like, humorous and I loved the characters and I thought they were really personal, I didn't really feel like the atmosphere was that great. I don't know. And I, like, plot-wise wasn't that into it because I thought it was going to be something else. I just didn't love it as much as I sort of hoped that I would or thought that I would. But I did end up giving it 3 stars. Then the next one that I have, this also got 3 stars. This is The Electric Woman by Tessa Fontaine. This I enjoyed. It was nice. This is a memoir of a woman who, her mother has a stroke, and then a few years later she decides to join a sideshow. I feel like the whole book she was trying to make it like her mother's stroke and where her mother was. Her mother never really recovers from the stroke. Her brain is constantly bleeding. And it's about this woman going to join the circus. And I thought it was really interesting. There was a part where she talks about learning to eat fire and how she thinks she's going to be taught a trick to make it seem like she's eating fire. But there is no trick. In order to eat fire, you have to eat the fire. And I just thought that was really interesting. And it tied in really well with, like, the metaphor of life almost. Like, in order to live your life, you have to live your life. There's no trick and to do anything, really. So I thought that was really interesting. But overall, it just sort of fell kind of flat. First of all, it's pretty long-winded. Some people's memoirs of their entire lives aren't this long, and this is, like, 5 months of this girl's life. I don't know. I think if you are interested in the circus and the sideshow, I think I would have liked this more had I read it over a longer period of time, rather than me picking it up one day and finishing it the next. That being said, I did give this 3 stars. The quote on the front from Megan O'Grady of Vogue says, fascinating. I'll agree with that. It was very interesting. Didn't love, didn't hate, felt indifferent. Then we're getting into my 4-star reads. So next I read The Bear and the Nightingale. I thought for sure, by Katherine Arden, sorry. This is the book 1 of the Winter Night trilogy. And I really thought for sure that I was going to give this like 5 out of 5. Love it. Can't stop thinking about it. It's I don't even know if it's a retelling, but it's like based on mythology, like Russian folklore and stuff. It's about a young girl named Vasya who, her family on her mother's side, there's like magic, and she lives in this small town in Russia, and she's very different than other people because she has this magical ability to see like the local spirits, I guess, and sprites that are taking care of the village. But there's a priest moving in and Christianity is coming, and so the people of the village are being told, like, you can't have these demons anymore. They're, like, bad. They're evil. And so Vasya is the only one who still sees them and hears them and realizes that they're good and they're protecting them. So she's the only one giving them sacrifices. She's the only one, like, helping them to survive because they'll die without the help of the villagers. And they're getting too weak to protect the village from the bear, which is a demon who's asleep in the woods. Who, it's like when people stop believing in him, he gets stronger and is able to like conquer them through their fear. But yeah, I thought I would really love this. I think part of the reason I didn't is because it's set in like a very wintry, cold, middle of winter in Russia setting, and it's 90 degrees out. I also listened to it as an audiobook, which I think would have been fine if I listened to it and read with it. But because I just listened to it, I sort of got like shards of the story and I wasn't able to get like fully immersed. Also, a lot of times when I listen to audiobooks, I'm going on walks, and going on a walk in 90-degree weather while listening to an audiobook like about the winter, it just was very disjointed for me. But I'm excited to read the rest of the ones in the series, and I hope that I do end up really enjoying them. Next, Anything Could Happen by Walton. This is a YA queer romance. I read this to fulfill the prompt but it's about our main guy, Tretch here, who is realizing that he has feelings for his best friend, Matt, and how he's sort of dealing with that. He lives in small town America. Sounds like southern rural America. I don't know exactly where it is, but it was sweet. It was cute. I actually really, really liked this. It made me cry a couple times, which is kind of lame. I did give this 4 stars also. It was just very sweet and very like bittersweet about him realizing like my best friend will never be interested in me. And they're both, him and his best friend are getting attention from girls for the first time. They're freshmen in high school. This is over their winter break. I will say, I guess this is like a New Year's Eve firework thing. I thought this was set in the middle of summer. So I thought I was reading this about like a summer love type thing. Not the case. But yeah, I thought this was very sweet. I thought it was going to be a lot lamer than I actually found it. And this was like a very realistic coming out story to me, just because like, it was nice because him coming out wasn't really a problem. Like nobody in his life was like, oh, I love you less because you're gay. It was very like, just very sweet. And it was a lot about the nerves where he talks about in the beginning where he's like, I know that my parents, they love me and they will still love me. And if anyone in this town is mean to me, my parents would literally pick us all up and move us somewhere else so that I could be myself more because of how much they love me. And I don't think that me being gay will make a difference to them. But he was still like scared to come out, obviously, just because it's a big thing to do. But I did. It just made my heart do little butterflies, which I love. Love this. The next highest up book, I also gave 4 stars, was They Both Die at the End by Silvera. I listened to this as an audiobook, which I think helped my experience because they had different voice actors do the different parts. If you don't know, They Both Die at the End is a sci-fi contemporary young adult romance-ish thing. It's set in the future where you get a phone call on the last day of your life letting you know that you're going to die that day. You don't know how you're going to die. You don't know when that day. You just know that it will be before midnight. So it follows 2 main characters whose names I can't remember right now. They're both Latinx boys. One of them is a bi boy. One of them is a gay boy. And the gay boy's never come out before. I can't remember his name. It's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to have to look it up. Mateo and Rufus. Those are their names. Mateo is the gay boy, very shy, never really leaves his house, gets this call, and he's like, shit. You find out Mateo's mom is passed away, I think, and his dad is in a coma, so he's pretty much taking care of himself. He's 18, I think, and he meets Rufus on this app called Last Friend. I thought this book was so sweet, and it's about these 2 boys who both know they're going to die that day, who never would have met otherwise, living in New York City, and they decide to spend their last day together as friends. But he's bi, and him being bi and being open about it helps Mateo come out of his shell and come out, and they have this sort of very bittersweet, like, love story thing happening, and you know they're both going to die that day. So it's not, like, overly sad. I heard a lot of people say that it made them cry. I didn't cry, but it was very sweet, very touching. I really, really liked it. I feel like I heard a lot of people didn't like it. I just thought, I don't know. I thought it was, like, a really interesting idea, and I just really enjoyed it. Ooh, we might be getting to a book that I really, really, really liked. Yeah, I think we are. Okay, I think we're there. Wow, it's been a wild ride. Okay. Yeah, we're at my favorite books of the month. And they're all books I have. House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this 4 stars, but I think it was the closest it could be to 5 stars without being 5 stars. Yes. Very high 4-star for me. This surprised me by how good it was. I'm not really a high fantasy person usually. I think my favorite thing about this was that it was in an urban setting, so it had a lot of modern technology. There were cell phones, high-rise buildings. The clothing was very modern. The clubs and drinking and like the party scene was a very modern type of thing. But if you don't know, this follows Bryce Quinlan, who is half human, half fae, and she lives in the capital city, Crescent City of this world, where there are humans, there are fae, there are werewolves and shapeshifters, there are vampires, all kinds of things, and there's different houses. So this is called House of Earth and Blood. I imagine the next one will be like Sky and Breath, House of Many Waters, House of Flame and Shadow. It's all in here. But it's basically starts off with Bryce and her best friend, Danica, who is a wolf shifter, and her whole wolf pack is at Bryce and Danica's house, and somebody or something, some demon from hell, they think, comes in and destroys the apartment and kills all the wolves and like rips them to shreds. And of course, while this happens, Bryce is out with her friends partying and drinking and doing drugs. And so she snaps out of it and like is trying to help, but she can't really do anything. So she's trying to track down this demon that they think it is. And she catches him eating an angel and is trying to stop him with a sword. All very like badassery things. And then it flashes forward. I don't know if it's a full year or two or something. And the case for what killed Danica and the wolves is back open. And Bryce gets recruited to work with the angels, a specific angel named Hunt, and figure out sort of how this happened. And she and Hunt are working together as a team. I will say, this book is written like a fan fiction. I don't know if that's like a Sarah J. Maas thing, but like it really bothered me at first. I don't know if I got used to it or if it got better or what, but it's just like all very spoon-fed to you at the beginning especially. But I thought the politics of the world were really interesting. There was an angel rebellion a while ago, like hundreds of years ago now. But Hunt was a part of that. So now a lot of the angels who were the fallen angels are all slaves. So Hunt is a slave. He has like a slave tattoo on his forehead. There's like hierarchies of people who are magical creatures are above the people who are half magic, and then the people who are mixed magic, and then the people who are just humans are at the bottom of the totem pole, obviously. And there's just like a lot of really interesting like politics in the book that aren't really focused on, but I think they will be more moving forward. Also, the thing that really bothered me about this book was I liked the romance. I thought it was good. I liked Hunt and Bryce as a couple. I don't know. I was like into their whole like falling in love, or are they in love? Do they like each other? Like hate to love romance type deal. But I will say like there's one part where Hunt has to move in with Bryce because she needs to be protected. And oh no, they have to live in the same house and be together all the time. And that's just such a like, that's a fan fiction trope. That's like you go to the hotel, there's only one room left and it only has one bed. Like that's so tropey and I hated it, but also I loved it. So again, I don't know. I can't believe that a New York Times bestselling author would use that in her book, but I did digest this 800-page monstrosity in 2 days. So, dare I say it? We stan. And the 2 best books that I read this month. First, this is a 5-star, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. This is the classic hard sci-fi, but it's very like atmospheric, which is what I liked about this. It's much more focused on like the feeling of deep space. And there's only like a few characters and you only really spend time with one of them. There's a part where the computer is like trying to kill them off and it's very like suspenseful. But ultimately, this is just about astronauts who are heading to this obelisk in space that they think is aliens. And they're like, this is where alien life is. This is part of a series, which I don't know if I will continue. I don't know if other people read the series. But it's very like, it's very witty, it's very imaginative, atmospheric. I really, really loved it. I didn't know that I would, and now I really want to watch the movie because I've never seen it. So this, highly, 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 highly recommend if you enjoy like an atmospheric science fiction novel. And then the best book that I read this month and all year, The 3-Body Problem. This has mixed reviews. Some people really hate the characters of this. I disagree. I found the characters very intriguing and very like they do bad things for the purpose of doing bad things, but also they're like very human, which is interesting. I should tell you what this book is about. This is set in China, and it starts in the Chinese Cultural Revolution, which I thought was interesting because I don't know very much about that. That being said, if you don't know very much about Chinese culture and things like that, there are all kinds of translator notes at the bottom of the page. Very helpful, I thought. I think some people probably think the footnotes are annoying. I don't think I could have gotten through this book without them. So I loved that. But I did find a lot of the characters, some people didn't like any of the characters. I found there's one character who's a mathematician who I related to really heavily. I also really liked Ye and Wang. Damn it. I listened to this as an audiobook so I could remember how to pronounce the names, but unfortunately it didn't stick. This is super science heavy, very, very physics heavy, just very science heavy. It helps to keep it at a high level of abstraction. And now I really am going to tell you what it's about because I didn't do that a second ago when I said I was going to. So it starts in the Cultural Revolution of China, and it is basically following these characters, this character as she finds out, she like hears from an alien force and she figures out how to send Earth's sound out into the cosmos and something comes back. and that planet needs to evacuate. So it's basically this other, they're called Trisolarans. The book says that you don't know what they look like, so we can only describe them as, the characters only imagine them as humanoid. There's like a video game aspect of this book where you play to try to figure out how to save Trisolarans. And I think that game is like propaganda for them to help you realize that the only way to save them is to let them come to Earth. So it's just very fascinating. Very heady, very War of the Worlds almost. I don't know. Really good. I'm really excited to read the next books. I will say the first half of this is so slow because it's just like laying the groundwork for everything. If you can hear my stomach growling, I'm so sorry. I promise I will feed myself immediately after filming this. But it's just so good. And I bought the box set because it was on sale. So I have all of them now in this matching format, which is very fun for me. And yeah, I can't wait to read the next ones. It takes a while to get into, but please stick it out. It's so, so good. Those are the 12 books that I read in the month of June. I had 1 DNF, 1 2-star, 3 3-stars, 2 5-stars, which means 5 4-stars. Wow, that took me a while to do. Okay, anyways, so I'm in law school because I don't do math. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you've read any of these books and you agree or disagree with me, please leave that in the comments down below. And what was your favorite book that you read in June? What are you excited to read in July? Let me know. I would love to know. I will see you all on Thursday. Bye!